Welcome to the Thyroid Fixer podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Amy, and we're diving deep into the world of hormones, especially for all you fierce women in perimenopause and menopause, and anyone dealing with hypothyroidism. If you're struggling with weight gain, you feel like shedding those pounds is an impossible feat. If you're dealing with plummeting energy levels, gut-wrenching fatigue, or a libido that seems to have left town, then you're in the right place. And don't even get me started on the hair loss. If these symptoms are sounding all too familiar, you found your tribe. Welcome, because my goal is to educate, empower, and shake up your world. I want you to embrace every inch of that badass woman that you truly are. So if you're ready to dive in and fix things, let's get started. You hear me talk about the importance of protein, but what about amino acids and what can they do for you? So the ISSN, they're a widely recognized authority on the latest cutting edge and non-biased information on sports nutrition. They just announced their position on essential amino acid supplements, or EAAs, for muscle and performance. The paper goes into a bunch of benefits and supporting studies, but the biggest takeaway for me was reading that EAAs are more effective than protein at stimulating muscle protein synthesis. So if you're trying to put on muscle, which who isn't, if you're trying to lose weight, which who isn't, and maintain lean muscle mass, or if you're just getting older and you're worried about maintaining your muscle mass, taking an EAA supplement is going to be one of the best things you can do for yourself. So I use Kion aminos every single day. I put them in my water when I'm working out. I put them in my water throughout the day because I know that they are preserving my muscle. I know that they are helping my hair, my skin, my nails. So you can try some for yourself. Go to getkion.com/thyroid. That's GETKION.com/thyroid, THYROID. This will get you 20% off. Highly recommend the mango flavor, but pretty much all of them are rock star flavors. You will love them. So this is going to be a game changer for you, and you can probably hear the excitement in my voice. The latest introduction, the latest member of the family to the Fixer line is Metabolism Fixer. And this, oh my God, I formulated this just for all my people out there that need to lose weight, that need help in the weight loss department, that can't lose weight no matter what they do, that feel like they have a slow metabolism, and that might be thinking of trying all those peptides out there, you know, the Beverly Hills soccer mom drug of choice for weight loss peptides. Or even if you're on them already and you're like, man, these are really expensive and I'm still not losing weight, add in Metabolism Fixer. Here's what I did. I took the power of T2, which increases your basal metabolic rate while you are sitting there watching Netflix. You're burning fat while you're watching Netflix. I combined it with a very unique patented ingredient called Suppressa. Suppressa has multiple clinical trials backing its efficacy in reducing your appetite, decreasing snacking, and providing way more control over your food intake. It is amazing. We also see improved emotional well-being, just decreased food cravings all around, reduced hunger, and weight management. Add on top of that, we have green tea extract, we have purple forest purple tea extract, both of which affect the metabolism in a very positive way without the jitters of normal fat burning supplements out there from the 1980s and 90s, right? The ones that made you feel like you're having a heart attack. You will not have that in any of my supplements, Thyroid Fixer or Metabolism Fixer. But Metabolism Fixer, ooh, yeah, we kicked it up a notch. It is in powder form, so you can drink it through your day. It's going to flavor your water. We got orange crush and refreshing citrus. I love them both. It is going to keep you under control all day long. So you throw a couple scoops in your water bottle in the morning, throw a scoop or two in your water bottle throughout the day. You will have fat burning and appetite control the entire day for what? An eighth of a price of the peptides? Oh my God, you can't go wrong. So grab some Metabolism Fixer today. Please let me know how you do on it. I am super excited for you. Super excited. Sara, you know I love having you on. You are one of my audience's favorite guests. I mean, just chock full of information, fantastic advice. So thank you so much for coming back on, because today we're talking about unexplained weight gain, which you have just a boatload of info for people.
Well, I love this topic, and so many people are going, "What's going on?" I've got people crawling out of the woodwork over the last 3 years going, "Sara, I have not changed anything. I'm saying I'm physically fit. I go to the gym. I haven't changed. I'm not over exercising. I'm not doing all the things. I'm staying on my good diet." And 5, 10, 20 pounds out of the blue. And Amy, even people in our industry, podcasters offline will say 20 pounds over the last 6 months. I don't know what's happened. And they're supposed to know what's going on. And it's going on in my household. I can't mention any names, but men and women are experiencing it. And a lot has to do with hormones and processed foods. And we'll get into the more obvious things, but then there's a lot of little things down deep that you're like, aha, maybe that's it. Because part of the problem too is when you start getting that unexplained weight gain, then you just give up, right? Then you don't want to go to the gym. Then you just reach for the Ben and Jerry's. Well, why not? I might as well, right?
Yeah. I call it screw it syndrome. So that's when people have like done all the things. Now, let me put a side note there. They've done all the things that they think they should do, but the information that you're going to give, that's going to kind of spark their brains a little bit to go, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. So they're doing all the things that they think is right. And maybe they are like eating clean and eating organic and all that, but you don't see the results. So you enter into, well, screw it. I might as well just have the pizza, because what's the point in eating all this organic, clean food if it's not going to produce a result?
Right. We're going to start with some of the more basic ones that like deep down, stress. We all talk about it. And actually, I'm having my own issue with this. The stupid Aura ring is now telling me when I'm in my stress state, and I'm getting stressed over seeing that I'm in my stress state, trying to figure out what was going through my brain at 8:45 this morning and why it's not telling me I'm stressed during my workout, which it actually should tell me that I'm stressed during that time. So anyways, this is something I'm actually personally having to deal with. But what the problem is, we all are stressed. The pandemic has made things worse, but we need to know, and I'm telling myself this as well, we need to know the stressors are coming and going. But how do we perceive them? How do we process them? Because, and I tell my kids this, challenges are going to happen. Are you going to deal with it as a 1 or a 10? A 1 or a 10? Because it's going to come and go. So stress. And why? Because cortisol is released by the adrenal glands in the stress response. And in short term, you actually might mobilize some more fat. And you actually might lose a little weight. That's why if someone has a lost one or a divorce and they initially lose weight, but then it's the long term. So when you are chronically stressed and your cortisol gets totally malfunctioned, I've seen this in my own family, the fat just stores, right? Because what happens in our ancestor life when we are stressed? We don't know if we're going to have a famine, we're being chased by a tiger. What do? We go into survival mode. You have to think through this whole podcast, survival mode. Our bodies are smart, and that applies to the thyroid, as you know, Amy. So we are stressed. So our body is going to store fat, and not only store fat, but where is it going to store fat? Around the belly, because our really expensive, valuable organs, our liver and our kidneys and everything, it's all there. We got to protect it. We got to put a fatty layer over here to make sure it is protected. And then what we touched on is what else happens when you're stressed? Your appetite and cravings go up, and probably for the wrong food. You're not craving a ribeye steak. You are craving Ben and Jerry's and pizza and the food that's in the pantry, not in the freezer, or like the frozen meat when I say the freezer.
The good stuff. Yeah. Well, there's that correlation between cortisol and blood sugar too.
Yes.
And that cortisol will spike blood sugar. And then I don't know if you say this too, Sarah, but I always say where there's a high, there's an equal and opposite low. So you get that, boom, that high, and then you crash down the other side. And those are biological cravings too. That's your body saying, hey, can you go eat something sugary or high carb just to get us out of this really low basement, low blood sugar state?
Absolutely. I call it the dirty cupcake. You don't even get to enjoy the cupcake when that stress is storing the body fat and increasing your blood sugar. And then the other thing that's really interesting, I just did a podcast on the benefits of Himalayan salt, but which is part of my accelerated ancient salt. It's Himalayan, Andes, and Utah-based salt. But the wires get crossed when your adrenals are ramped up or you're super stressed. What happens? You use up your minerals and your salts, your complete salts, much quicker. When you are craving salt, your brain gets the wires crossed and thinks you're craving sugar. So then you start craving sugar or eating sugar, which usually is processed food full of salt and sugar and fat. So it's getting all of the cravings all in one, and you have this explosion, and then you get that chain reaction of then the addiction comes from the processed foods. And we'll get into that in a minute. But this is also going to slow down your metabolism. So not only is your body wanting to store that belly fat, but it's going to slow down your metabolism because I don't know if there's a famine coming. I better slow down that metabolism, increase that reverse T3, right? The T4 goes to reverse T3 instead of that free T3. So that's part of it. And then it's actually causing insulin resistance to increase, even without the sugar. So you're adding the sugar because of your cravings, which is increasing your insulin resistance, but your insulin resistance is actually increasing without the sugar. Then we're eating the processed foods. And this is a no-brainer, right? We know that when we eat it, it's going to cause that explained weight gain. It's high density calories. So the quantity of food you can eat that's processed versus like 3 ribeye steaks is much higher, right? You're not going to binge on a ribeye steak. But this is the problem. It has the high amounts of fructose, and fructose converts into energy differently in the body. And it actually doesn't convert into energy. Glucose, your body has storage for glucose and in the muscles. And that's why glucose is okay when you're working out and you're using up the good, healthy carbs. But fructose actually gets converted directly into liver fat. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is the #1 fastest growing disease in the country. And that fructose is going to not only store as liver fat, but here we are eating food for energy, right? The whole thought is I eat food for energy so I can go do things.
Right.
Well, fructose steals ATP. ATP is your cellular energy. So here you are eating food and it's taking away your energy. So then what? You want to eat more, hoping for more energy, but it's this vicious cycle. So then you're going to have excessive weight gain. And then, of course, these foods don't have nutritional density. And when you think about this awesome hormone called CCK, it's in the gut that's triggered by that wild animal protein, regular protein too, but I love the wild animal protein, and omega-3 fatty acids. It's triggered down in the gut when you eat those foods to say, oh, I've got enough food. I can be done. I can put down the fork, right? So it's only triggered by amino acids and omega-3 fatty acids. Now, when you're eating Pringles, how many amino acids are in there? Right? So your body is going, okay, well, keep eating because I have not seen what I want yet. And so there's this constant trying to satisfy the brain, and there's no satisfaction, let alone the fact that the sugar, the fat, the carbs all together is triggering this huge dopamine response that is an addiction. Sugar, and I've gone into this, I think we've talked about it before, where addiction has 3 pathways to the brain, or sugar does, and cocaine and alcohol only have 1. And when you are addicted to sugar, it is very hard to get off of it. the unhealthy fats in the processed foods, they're inflammatory, they're causing insulin resistance at the cellular level. We're talking about fats. We're not even talking about sugar, right? So that's going to cause weight gain to come on. And then there's the processed ingredients that have no calories, the additives, preservatives. What do? Our body doesn't know what they are. They're not real food. So they see them as a toxin. They encapsulate these toxins and put them in fat cells because we're trying to get all the toxins out of the blood and away, right? So once again, survival mechanism. Let's store it as body fat. Your body is trying to save you. Okay, then it completely disrupts the gut. So we talked about this hormone CCK that is triggered by all the healthy foods. So here you are. I'm really frustrated. I've put 5 pounds on. Okay, I'm just gonna have the pizza and the Ben and Jerry's, but I'm gonna be really good tomorrow. So
Right.
then tomorrow, I have leaky gut just from one meal. Okay, so that completely disrupts the villi that are capturing the signal from the omega-3 fatty acids and the amino acids that you have the next day when you're trying to get back on track.
Okay,
And
wait,
so
wait. Pause there. One meal
one meal.
cause leaky gut and cause that much disruption to just throw off the whole system.
Pretty much.
Wow. Well, I
Yeah.
don't think people know the full detrimental effect of bad seed oils. I think we all, because even I catch myself blowing it off certain times, like, well, that's just it's a little bit of canola oil. It's a little bit of soybean oil. It's not going to hurt me, but yeah, it can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The seed oils stay in the body for over a year. That sugar you have in and out of your body within a day.
Oh my
I
God.
I would much rather you have a sweet potato with real butter on it than a ketogenic protein bar because they are probably filling in with some fake ingredients and some of those seed oils because they're ketogenic. But so you've got those seed oils, you really have to stay away from them as much as you can. Going to nice restaurants, they cut the olive oil with canola oil. You think you're doing right, but it's just one of those things. And we can't be perfect. That's not what I'm saying. The good news, there are supplements that you can take to heal the gut. I've got my leaky gut bundle that fills that in and heals it much quicker than the typical body would take. So I want to get back to fructose real quick.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it increases liver fat, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also increases triglycerides, and triglycerides are your heart risk. We talk about cholesterol. Don't worry about your cholesterol. Look at your triglycerides. And I know you know that, and we've talked about that. But this fructose also impairs the signaling of insulin. So it's taking away the normal function of the insulin receptors, which is going to make things even worse that much faster. And then it increases uric acid level. So uric acid is low from a lack of copper. And processed foods and the spike protein, which we'll talk about in a second, both deplete your levels of copper in the body. And copper helps keep that uric acid level under control. Fructose raises the uric acid level in the blood, and Dr. Rick Johnson actually says, and I can't wait to have this conversation with him, and I'm having Dr. Robert Lustig together on one podcast to argue over what came first, the uric acid or the insulin resistance. Because Rick claims that if uric acid is under control, then insulin resistance will be under control. So it's a really interesting topic. Obviously, you want to control both. But uric acid also accelerates the removal of copper from the body. And so then you don't have the copper that you need, and that can affect your non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So with too much uric acid, it increases the fat storage in the body. It lowers your metabolism. So this is all on top of what already we've talked about that is doing all of these things. It lowers ATP and energy. So that fructose and the uric acid are stealing ATP from the body. And when ATP is lowered in the body sees it as a threat. So another reason to freak out and go into survival mode. And then it stimulates hunger immediately, leading to that food intake. So for all of you thinking that it's all about willpower, it's your reptilian brain that's telling you, I just want to survive, right? Okay,
Right.
so uric acid also causes oxidative stress to the mitochondria, which decreases energy production, impairs the fat burning, and stimulates fat production at the same time. Stops the fat burning and increases production at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then the oxidative stress will cause the burning of the fatty acids released from stored fat to decrease as well. So there's all of these things that are working at the same time. Uric acid also increases insulin resistance and increases leptin resistance. Leptin is that awesome hormone that tells you when you eat, okay, I've got enough food, I'm done. But leptin resistance is like the mom screaming at the kids day in and day out, and the kids stop listening. And then dad walks in and says something and they all listen, right? So leptin resistance is like insulin resistance, and they usually go together.
Yeah.
Where they're screaming and you're eating and eating and eating. And actually it flips to where the more you eat, the more you're hungry. And you get an increased appetite through that dopamine. Fructose increases dopamine, like we mentioned, like an addiction. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the uric acid. Then the spike protein. So this is something that we haven't done to ourselves, right? This isn't the eating the Ben and Jerry's. This isn't the stress. This isn't the lack of exercise or even the menopause that has maybe caused the hormones to get out of whack. Spike protein has affected all of us. I don't care who you are, where you are. If you've been to a market or some public place, you've been exposed.
Right.
And there's actually a news article that Mercola just came out with that vaccine shedding is a real thing.
Yeah.
So there is fact, there's studies, and there's science behind it. Well, the spike protein dysregulates the function of the ACE2 enzyme receptor in the liver. That is why you gotta love your liver and do the liver flushes with me at least 4 times a year. But this is going to cause water retention, which is weight gain that you don't understand when you step on the scale. That's why you got to throw away your bathroom scale and go do a body scan of some sort, right? Insulin dysregulation. So it's actually, say you ate an apple 3 years ago, an apple today, you actually will have a higher insulin response. What does insulin do? Insulin's a fat storing hormone.
Right.
Same food, same person, even pretend you're the same age, you're going to have a bigger insulin spike. And that's why I recommend actually getting a blood test and testing your insulin, not just your blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
You have an increase in antidiuretic hormone, oxidative stress, more oxidative stress on top of the stress that we're already experiencing. And then that's not even taking into account the stress, the oxidative stress from the toxins and free radicals and everything we're going to talk about in a minute. But you're going to have more inflammation and then hormonal imbalance. The amount of young girls coming to me, and I can tell you my own daughter in this house, period pain, PMS. She was, mom, I don't feel great. Give me a couple Advil. To mom, I want to throw up. Will you hit me to make me pass out? This pain, I cannot handle it. She would not go to school. 3 Advil for a girl that is 112 pounds would not touch the pain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So this is a pure in my house. This is a God thing saying, okay, you better figure this out, Sarah, because your own daughter is really suffering. And I've heard that over and over again. And I do have now a protocol for that issue. So if you have that issue, definitely let me know. But that, and then also just women saying their hot flashes, their hormonal imbalances during perimenopause and menopause have gotten much, much worse. So it definitely disrupts the hormones.
Yeah.
Well, if your liver is backed up and having issues, then your hormonal balance is going to be a problem. And if your liver can't get rid of those toxins, those xenoestrogens that we talk about, that maybe we were dealing with fine 3 years ago. Now it's a problem, right? So that's the spike protein.
I'm checking in with you. How's your energy these days? How's your skin? How's your muscle strength? These are things that are very, very important to me. And I know just from research that after the age of 30, our mitochondria starts breaking down. And these are the powerhouses of the cell that provide us with muscle strength and better skin and abundant energy through the day. So I've added in something that I wanted to share with you, Timeline Nutrition's MitoPure. So when we look into research into healthy aging, it really focuses on that pivotal role that our mitochondria plays in our body. And without our mitochondria working at top notch, then health is just declining. And that's not what we want. Daily wear and tear on a mitochondria is inescapable, but we can do something about it now. Timeline Nutrition's MitoPure is the first supplement that has been clinically shown to replace and rebuild damaged mitochondria. And this results in a boost in cellular energy. And actually, research has shown that individuals experience an increase in muscle strength and endurance without even altering their diet and exercise routine. So, I mean, I can personally attest to feeling the difference. I am now going to ask you to feel the difference. So I invite you to go to timelinenutrition.com. They're giving my community 10% off of MitoPure if you use the code Dr. Amy. So you are going to go to timelinenutrition.com/Dr. Amy and use the code Dr. Amy, DRAMIE. So timelinenutrition.com/DRAMIE and use the code Dr. Amy at checkout.
Back to copper, there was one thing that I didn't mention. When that uric acid reduces the copper prevents insulin resistance through a couple different ways. It blocks something, or it inhibits the polyol pathway, which is a metabolic process responsible for converting glucose into sorbitol and fructose. Now, remember, we don't like fructose.
Right.
So in the absence of copper, the uric acid's going to increase, and then the insulin resistance and the weight gain is going to come on. Insulin resistance, and I want to just pause for a second, and because this might not be obvious to some people. When you're insulin resistant, that insulin is being pumped out, and the cells aren't listening. They're not opening the door to let the glucose get into the cell. So it's screaming at you. Insulin is a fat storing hormone.
Yeah.
So when they give diabetics insulin shots, and then the doctor says, well, you've gained 10 pounds since I last saw you. You must have increased your food and you're not exercising. And the guy will say, no, I haven't done, I've actually improved all of that. But shooting yourself with a fat storing hormone is going to help you do what? Store fat. So I just wanted to clarify, insulin is going to cause that unexplained weight gain. So you could be the same person with this progressive diet that is just too much sugar or something, and all of a sudden your body's just with age and time is becoming more insulin resistant. And then you're gaining that weight and it's coming out of nowhere. And how many of you are saying to yourself, yeah, when I used to, binge and then go on this 4-day diet of these foods, it used to always work for me, and now it's not working. Right. And there's a reason, right? Okay, so copper helps also maintain have healthy levels of triglycerides and the accumulation of that fatty liver. So an excess buildup of fat in the liver is going to help increase that insulin resistance. Robert Lustig says that insulin resistance at the liver is diabetes. Insulin resistance at the ovaries is PCOS. Insulin resistance at the heart is heart disease. Insulin resistance at the brain is dementia.
Yeah.
So you're right. So you're seeing all of these different things manifest. So look at your other symptoms besides the scale. What else are you experiencing? And it might help with some of these things we're talking about.
Now, really quickly, Sarah, where does Robert like to see people's insulin? Is it the same as what we tell him? We like that insulin level below a 6?
Yes. Yeah, he says you can't really get it to zero, but lower is better. He would like it 5. I think he says he would like it 5 or below.
And do you see an issue with too low of insulin?
I don't know if that's even possible. Someone asked him that question and he kind of laughed because he said, I've never seen it below a 2, right? And so it's kind of not really a conversation because he hasn't seen anything where someone's in danger.
Yeah. Okay. I
So,
just wonder because I will see some people come in with, I think I have seen below a 2, but I don't see an issue with that. Usually below a 2, it's tied to some kind of eating disorder or
right.
just malnutrition. They're just not eating enough. But yeah, I wanted to pause you there because I was curious about that.
But that's interesting because I've heard, and I have not done studies or anything. I'd love to know with your eating disorder patients, their blood sugar could actually be high because of stress, and their
Mhm.
cholesterol's levels can be very high. Have you seen that?
Usually, once they come to me, their eating disorder has been treated. It's just in the past. And usually that is a cause for low thyroid function or one of the causes. It was a stressor, like you said, having an eating disorder or any kind of deprivation, any kind of
Yeah.
diets or ongoing diets or too low of caloric intake over time is going to put a really huge stress on the body. And what I'll see then is that either the expression of Hashimoto's or shutdown of their thyroid.
Mm.
And now, we're kind of healing their metabolism. They're in therapy, they've done the therapy, they've overcome the eating disorder. And now we're dealing with kind of the repercussions on their metabolism, but they might still present with a low insulin.
Right. And don't let me forget to mention the mental aspect because I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
But radiation. So here we have this little phone
Yeah.
that is with me in my left hand everywhere I go. I am guilty. That radiation from non-ionizing or an ionizing has been linked to an elevation in insulin resistance. So here, like my mom, who is 80 years old, no weight issues ever in her life, was eating all the carbs she wants back in the day. Well, before 1980, there were no processed foods. There were no cell phones that are like we have right now.
Right.
The actuality is that these cell phones, these smartphones, have not updated their warning from 1999. I want
Right.
you to think back to what did your cell phone look like in 1999 and the power of that versus the power of the ones we have now. So the amount of radiation and that's not mentioning the 5G towers, the Zooms, everything that we're around, the computers, the power of the machines that we are in front of. We have no concept. In fact, Amy, when I'm in front of my big desktop computer, I can only be in front of it for an hour or my eyes go blurry versus when I'm on my laptop, I can be on it more because it has less radiation.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
it's something to think about. It causes increased oxidative stress, free radical damage, even DNA damage, and then also dementia. Why? Because dementia is related to insulin resistance. So when the body is detecting the presence of that radiation, what does it do? It goes into that survival mode. It lowers the metabolic rate. It increases insulin resistance and the storage of more fat. And it will actually, remember, what does it do with toxins and radiation? It encapsulates them into larger fat cells to shield the organs from the harm. Okay, so if I'm getting exposed to a phone, I want a layer of fat right here, right? So that the radiation isn't hitting my kidneys and my liver. I mean, you hear about doctors even saying, take your cell phone out of your pocket, guys, if you want that sperm count up.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So
Sure.
imagine what it's doing to your kidneys and your liver and everything else, and especially if you've got it next to your brain. So something to think about. It's reducing ATP and energy in the body. So again, it's going to lower that energy and that burn. Mitochondrial health and ATP increase that energy in the body, increase the caloric burn. And same with the toxins that we are bearing. Oh my gosh, the amount of toxins. We've got the GMOs and the glyphosate, the presence of lead, mercury, and other heavy metals in your dental fillings, the vaccinations, water sources, fluoride, chloride, bromide, all of these things that are hitting the thyroid, hitting every cell in the body. So not just the thyroid, all 100 trillion cells in the body. Or maybe there's quadrillions. No one really knows how many cells we have, but every cell has thyroid receptor hormones on them, and they're meant for iodine. But if they aren't filled with iodine, those fluorides, the chlorine, the bromide are going to go into every cell. I was joking with my daughter. She's going to kill me for saying this. She's in college, and she's telling me about all the athletes and the boys. And I'm like, well, what about all the water polo guys? Are they cute? How are they? And I go, actually, never mind. They're filled with chlorine.
That's right.
I said, we don't want them. I said, you could make some money and you could actually put them all on the iodine.
I was
But
thinking that. I'm like, start passing it out, girl. Like,
I know.
they're going to feel so much better. They'll come back for more.
Oh gosh, I know. The things you have to think about now when you're picking a life partner. So anyways, all of these toxins are building up in the liver. Our ancestors had nothing like this, right? Like using my mom as an example. She didn't have any of this stuff. Now, does she have to worry about her weight? Sure, she does, because she's doing all the things we're talking about. She doesn't eat organic. She doesn't think twice about processed foods because she's never had to think about what she puts in her mouth. So, okay, when you have a backed up liver, your thyroid hormones aren't converting. Basic T4 to T3. Your estrogens increase, your hormonal imbalance is going to increase. We've got the 3 fat storing hormones: cortisol, which is stress, insulin, and estrogen. We got to have estrogen, but we want the right estrogen, not these bad estrogens that we're talking about. And they are going to prompt the body to generate new fat cells, as well as making the fat cells bigger. This is something interesting for you young people, that when your body is in the teenage years, you create new fat cells, and you literally create the amount of fat cells that you're going to have for a lifetime. You cannot get rid of fat cells. So if we've been obese as a child, you are going to be fighting a fight for the rest of your life, because you're going to deflate the fat cells as you try to lose weight, but you're never going to get rid of them. You can make more and more and more. And that's why some people have never had weight issues, because they were normal weight as a young child, or I should say that they have an easier time losing weight. So that's just something to think about. The xenoestrogens, which are part of these toxins, they're coming in the dishwasher soap. I had a fight with my husband the other day about it, because I ran out of the organic dish soap and he went and he got Dawn. And I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, with Sara, you're over
the top, girl." Yeah.
Right. I'm like, okay, well, now don't complain about any unexplained weight gain, right? So you have these hormonal disruptions. The fat cells actually change the fat cell function. So the function of the adipose tissue actually increases fat accumulation and obesity. So, and then you have more insulin resistance, interfere with the insulin sensitivity. They, of course, disrupt the thyroid, and they also may affect the brain's control of appetite. So you're going to actually be increasing your food intake and have increased weight gain because of your Dawn soap that you're using. It's not worth it, guys. You don't even get to taste the calories, right? And then the dirty liver. So the liver, you got to love your liver. It's the master detox organ. It produces estrogen binding protein. And when you've got all these toxins in your liver, it can't do this. So the liver is unable to clear all the toxins, and you can't convert your thyroid hormones. You can't burn fat and protein. Fat metabolism and protein are done in the liver. If you're nauseous when you're eating too much fat, that's a sign your liver needs to get cleansed. I actually, this is another God thing, Amy. Last month, totally nauseous for over 4 weeks. I couldn't figure it out. And well, I knew in my head that I needed a liver flush.
Yeah.
I did my liver flush, bam, all gone. The nausea was gone. I could feel my metabolism go up, and I could feel my thyroid working better, my energy, my workouts were better, all of it when I did my liver flush.
Yeah.
And the other part of this connected to my story with the mental aspect that I wanted to talk about is if you are imagining yourself the fat girl. I've always been the fat girl. I can't lose weight, or this weight is just not coming off. I can't get it off. If you wake up and you're thinking that thought, none of the stuff that we're talking about matters.
Mm.
And it actually played against me in the opposite direction, because when I was nauseous, I had a really hard time eating enough. And so when the nausea cleared, my appetite came back. I was ravenous, and it was awesome. I'm like, oh my God, it's so nice to have an appetite. And I wanted to start building my body back up. I had lost a little weight. I wanted to gain it back and gain the muscle back and all that. My metabolism shot through the roof, and I'm having a really hard time. I'm eating like a horse, and I'm having a hard time. But part of it's my mental thing, like this fear that I can't get the weight back. So the way you think, and I'm telling myself the same thing, the way you think is affecting the way your body is messaging between the cells. So even your big toe is listening to that message that you are talking about. If you have an injury that just won't go away, you're not going to heal by saying, oh my God, is my back going to hurt when I wake up? And of course it is, right? So the mental piece, journal, put sticky notes on your mirror, I mean, how many of you, and I know you've talked a lot about hair loss in the last 3 years because of the pandemic. A lot of people have been losing their hair. Well, if you stare in the mirror and you're staring at the little bald spot that you thought that you're starting to focus on, do you think your hair is going to grow back? No. You've got to envision Goldilocks, right? And you have to really think about that mental piece. So journal, put sticky notes all over yourself, get rid of the mirror if you don't want to look at it, whatever you need to do to flip the switch of your thinking.
Listen, that's huge. I mean, and this is not just woo. Like, this is not woo-woo stuff. There's real science behind this. And I've mentioned this in other podcasts too, but I think it's worth bringing up here again, because now we have, excuse me, people like Joe Dispenza diving into and measuring the brain waves of people's thought patterns. You know, back in the day, we had The Secret that came out. And before that, there was Earl Nightingale. And he basically started the whole process, the whole movement of your thoughts controlling your life, you know, physical and situational, like whether or not you have a job or where you live or your success or non-success, everything. So when we look at the science behind our thoughts driving our body and our health, it's more when you look at Joe Dispenza, he has documented evidence, studies, whatever you want to call it, of people coming to his events, his conferences, or going through his programs and getting rid of their cancer. He's had blind people see again. And I'm like, I shit you not. You know, and even he's up there. I've seen him in person. He's like, I don't make this up, and I don't have an explanation for it, except that it's the mind controlling the body. And when you really step back and think about it and think about your mental state, we've all known people who have gone through cancer treatment. I can give my dad as an example, and then my brother-in-law as an example. Now, my brother-in-law made it through, but we were all surprised because his attitude was, F this, I'm going to die. This is horrible. Woe is me. I'm a victim. And my dad from day one was like, I'm beating this. There's really not a question. And when you look at just how each one of them moved through their treatment, how they felt, how they overcame, how they ended up at the end, that was mental. That was mental all day long. So I'm so happy that you brought this up because I think a lot of our audience, a lot of my patients, maybe a lot of your clients had that so ingrained in their mind that, oh my God, I'm never going to lose this weight. I'm never going to get better. I've tried all the things. I've spent all the money. I've tried all the supplements. I've done all the diets. It's just never going to work. How is this going to work again? I don't think this is going to work. Then it's not.
Of course not.
Yeah.
You've got that is such it is the most important aspect. And I can talk to about my youngest daughter who's trying to build her body up to row and compete against these girls that are 160 pounds, 6 feet tall.
Mhm.
And I'm talking to her about this thing because she'll sit down and want to eat, and she wants to eat all the good, healthy protein that I'm giving her, but she'll get halfway through, she won't be able to eat because her stomach is so tight in knots. And mentally, she is afraid that she can't gain the weight. So her body is physically making it impossible to
Yeah.
take in the nutrients. And we've talked about this. And as we're talking through it, her stomach pain's going away and she's able to eat more. So it is something. And look at your kids. I mean, this is not just about this, not just about unexplained weight gain, but about everything. So the good news, Amy, is there's a way to get rid of the unexplained weight gain. And I have my cleanses. You can go to my website and look at all my cleanses, take a quiz, see which one's right for you. But the ultimate one is the Ascent Diet Cleanse, which includes the acceleridine, the accelerated keto, and the accelerated thyroid, but also with the liver flush, because that liver flush, it's going to get hundreds of stones out of your body. Yes, green little stones literally in the toilet. And when you see them, you're like, oh my gosh, how did my liver do what it's supposed to do with all of those sitting there? But I know a full cleanse is a lot for most people. So I recommend doing it. You get free coaching with me for it. But the number one, and I'll list these in priority, is the acceleridine iodine. So, and you know it, you love it, but it not only is providing that 4 and 3 and 2 molecules of iodine in T4, T3, and T2, but uric acid buildup is partly due to the liver getting overloaded. Iodine cleanses the liver and the blood, alleviating that liver backup. Okay. It also helps with insulin resistance. Just on its own, iodine can actually lower insulin resistance, especially when you're using the accelerated ancient salt with it, because the salt plumps up the blood to let the toxins get out of the body. But the iodine is expelling the toxins, heavy metals, radiation that the body is suffering from, especially in the liver. It increases apoptosis, which is that cellular turnover or the destruction of the diseased and cancer cells, right? It's getting rid of all the stuff that you don't want. It's also the number one mineral for spiritual health and for getting rid of brain fog and for mood and depression. 96% of the United States is deficient in iodine, and most people, and we've talked about this, that are on antidepressants are suboptimal thyroid, right? So if they just get their thyroid fixed, they'll get off their antidepressants. Well, the acceleridine iodine is part of that. The accelerated thyroid, that is combining freeze-dried glandular with the Conchinara, which is an ancient Ayurvedic herbal supplement that I've been taking for years that helps with metabolism, fat burning, energy, breaks down fatty liver, helps with the immune system and mood and all of that, and then enhanced with scalar frequencies to heal the thyroid, or I should say restore the thyroid to normal function, and to detox the thyroid of the heavy metals and the radiation and all the things that are clogging it. So those scalar frequencies are embedded in the formula. Now, away from the Ascent Diet Cleanse, of course, you got to add in the thyroid fixer. That T2 is going to help with the fat burning and the metabolism. And I take it every single day with my accelerated thyroid. The accelerated keto, this supplement is not a keto supplement. We're actually changing the name because of that. But what it's doing is, number one, it's kicking you into ketosis, but it's helping suppress the appetite for the sugar, the carbs, and the processed foods that are causing all of these issues. It's targeting your fat. So it actually has cofactor ingredients in there to literally turn the saturated fat in that fatty liver into unsaturated fat. So they're easier to turn into ketones and burn. It's teaching your body how to be in ketosis. And then when you do that, you are not eating, you're fasting, you're decreasing inflammation, going through that autophagy state where you're getting rid of the damaged cells, providing that energy to the brain, actually been shown to help with Alzheimer's and dementia and brain injuries because it's reducing the inflammation in the brain. And then it's increasing ATP by 5 to 10 times. So then we add in the scalar frequencies to help cleanse the liver. So all of you saying, I can't do a liver flush, this taking on a daily basis is cleansing the liver and targeting that fatty liver disease just on its own. And there's some other supplements like my binder, the accelerated cellular detox powder, that's soaking up all the toxins to take off that you're releasing, to take off the burden from the kidneys and the liver. So that is a really important part. That accelerated cellular detox powder is enhanced with scalar frequencies to help increase the absorption of the radiation, the toxins we've talked about, and even the insecticides and pesticides that we have no control over, even when we try to do the right thing. So those would be the top ones that would help with that unexplained weight gain. But the mental piece, then focusing on the wild animal protein. We didn't even talk about, and I know we're running out of time, we didn't even touch on some of the vegetables that are healthy vegetables, but could be blocking your liver and your detox pathways. Oxalates and the sulfur vegetables like the healthy broccoli and cauliflower and kale and bok choy that used to be fine for you 3 years ago, but now all of a sudden your liver is so burdened that the sulfur is actually burdening it even more and causing water retention, weight gain, slowing the metabolism. Because if your body sees it as another toxin or poison or threat, what's it going to do? Survival mode, slow down the metabolism. So all of these things, remember, your body is smart.
So real quick, I want to touch on that because so many people will come to me and say, well, I'm on a low FODMAP diet or a low oxalate diet, and it's just not working. It's not just that one thing. I mean, that can be a piece of the puzzle of everything that Sara just went over. And yes, you might be able to remove some vegetables that are high in oxalates and help your liver, but it's not going to be that one thing, especially if you're still consuming some fructose over here and not looking at the bad seed oils and not taking anything to support your liver, and you're drinking a couple times a week or even heavily once a week, and you're popping Tylenol and you're popping Advil, and all those things really burn in the liver. So it's not going to just be that one answer. I just wanted to touch on that because I know people are going to listen. They're going to be like, oh, so all I have to do is remove some vegetables. Like, no.
Right. Yeah. And have the keto protein bar, right?
Right. Oh, God.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that I want to make sure that everyone understands is that you can heal your gut. You can do all the things, cleanse the liver, and you might be able to have the sulfur vegetables again. You might be able to have the oxalates again in moderation. Everyone is in their own different state of health now versus 3 years ago versus 2 years from now versus me versus Amy, right? We've got genetics and epigenetics that are all playing around here. Now, the vegetables are an issue, the different proteins, you want to focus and prioritize wild animal protein. I love bison because it's the most nutrient dense food on the planet. And then you've got the elk and the deer and the lamb and the wild fish, all of those foods. Try to stay away from the chicken. And we can go into that another time. But number one, it's white. It doesn't have any nutrients in it, right?
Right.
But anyways, the prioritizing protein, you don't have to be on a high fat diet. Prioritize that protein. When you are trying to lose weight, this is another thing. Have your body snack on its own fat stores instead of eating a ton of fat, right? If it eats a ton of fat, then you're not going to tap into your own fat stores.
Exactly. Very nice. Oh, I'm so happy we did this because this is one of those for all the listeners, my patients, your clients, everybody, because even if you are working at getting your thyroid hormones optimized or you're working on a detox protocol with Sara, you have to check all of these boxes because if we hear, well, I'm not losing weight or I all of a sudden have weight gain, what's going on? It could be all of these things or one or two of these things that Sara just mentioned. So thank you. I thank you, my listeners. Thank you. Because these are things that you don't think of. I don't even think of them. When I get the message, oh my gosh, I'm gaining weight, I stop and go, really? That doesn't make sense. But I have to step back and remember all of those things that you just went over with us.
It's overwhelming. I'm not going to lie. It's overwhelming for me. But at the same time, if you want to know, that is the truth. And it's living in this life in this time now. It's not so simple.
No, it's not. We have to take that extra step. We have to, I know taking a boatload of supplements isn't fun, but sometimes you need them. You need them to overcome the burden that is our environment. So, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Sara. I appreciate you always, always.
Thank you, Amy. I always love being with you.
Well, until next time, we'll bring you back on. Maybe we'll do a deep dive into the sulfur, the oxalates, the FODMAPs, all that fun stuff.
There's actually 5 things in the diet that could be a problem.
Oh, she just left you with like
little teaser.
A hanging chad. Like now you have to come back the next time Sara and I record. So we got some good stuff.